All right, welcome everyone to our virtual panel for Mastering the College Visit. Before we get started, and while we're having our families and students come into the session today, we have a few reminders on our screen here. Just a couple things to start off. Your cameras and microphones are off, so our college representatives cannot see or hear you. But as our panel is going on, if you do have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A button on your screen to ask any questions throughout the panel. Now, there are more sessions through panels and also college fair sessions happening today and also throughout the week and also in the future. So feel free to sign up for more online. Definitely check out the schedule on the website as there is a lot of different events happening. And this is being recorded. So if you miss anything or want to go back and check out anything, you can check out the recording at strivescan.com/launch. So at this time, I'm going to turn things over to our panel. I'm going to turn over to Dan from Towson University.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. And thank all of you for attending here this evening. I think one of the things that always really tickles me as an admissions counselor, the idea that you all are giving up your time when you could be doing literally anything else, right? You voluntarily are staying logged in and staring at your screens and everything else. That's really, really meaningful. And so we always really appreciate you being here tonight. We're going to talk about making the most of the campus visit, myself and my colleagues. Before I dive in, of course, Katie, Stephanie, how do we seeing what we're supposed to be seeing? Yes. All right, very good. Seeing that beautiful shot we've got going on. So we're going to do this. We're going to introduce ourselves one at a time, tell you all who we are, and then we are going to really just be diving in kind of some top 10 tips and tricks to make the most of your college visit, as the title entails, so that you all out there, whether you are about to wrap up your junior year or maybe even your sophomore year, really wherever you are in your college search process, you do get some of those tips and tricks as you look ahead to the spring or this summer, certainly, and into the fall as you start visiting the various colleges and universities that you're interested in. We hope you come away with some fun things. So Stephanie, do you want to say hello and kick us off?
Sure. My name is Stephanie Hospodar. I work for Bryant University, which is located in Smithfield, Rhode Island, but I am our Regional Associate Director of Admissions for the South Atlantic and am based in sunny Florida.
All right, very good. And Katie, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Hi, all. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on what time zone you're joining us from. My name is Katie Holdgriever-Sendez. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions at the University of Colorado Boulder, and I actually run all of our campus visits, virtual and on-campus programs.
Oh, so this is really, really in the wheelhouse for Katie. Very good. And I'm Dan Zawacki. I'm the Associate Director for Recruitment, Undergraduate Admissions at Towson University in Towson, Maryland, just north of Baltimore. This should be a lot of fun, as I noted. We are really here to give you lots of tips and tricks. Throughout, you all in the audience, you want to drop things in the chat for us to answer. We can do that. It's a very casual format. We've got about 40 more minutes to hang out with y'all. But we figured we would kind of go through each of us, obviously on brand all the way throughout. We have our corresponding school colors to each text and a little bit of a tip or trick that we will talk about and elaborate on. And so, tip number one coming up. Stephanie, you want to tell us about it?
All right, yeah, so I'll kick things off with tip number one. So in thinking about visiting campuses and thinking about where you're applying to college in general, you're going to have a lot of schools on your radar. So tip number one is to start with virtual visits. This is going to help you in a few different ways. One, it's going to allow you to really gain exposure to these schools that you're interested in and narrow down and prioritize that list of schools that you are going to visit in person. But it's also going to give you a foundation of information on that institution before you get to campus. So that way, once you're on campus and getting to see buildings in person and talk to students and really get a sense for what that school, what is important to that school and important as part of that student experience through your on-campus time, you'll have already answered some of those basic questions that you might have about that institution. So taking advantage of those virtual options is really important. Having navigated COVID, it's safe to say that most schools will have some sort of virtual presence. That can vary in terms of what they're able to offer online. For many of us, it might be a virtual tour where you get those 360-degree views and that information similar to what you'll cover on campus tour experience as well. For others, it may be simple website pages or webinars or recorded videos and YouTubes and social media posts and stories. So think about those different ways and that different exposure you can have to that campus virtually, because that really is going to provide the foundation for schools that you feel are a right fit for you, but also in terms of providing you information on what that institution is really like. So that is tip 1.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I'll echo Stephanie too. One of the few silver linings of the last couple of years is that we do all, as institutions, have pretty robust ways to explore our campuses from afar, and so a really good way to kick things off. And then, of course, once you have done that virtual visiting, you want to do your in-person visiting, right? So after you've really started to check out a little bit some of the schools you're interested in, you've gone to these virtual info sessions, you've tried out their online virtual tours, you say, okay, great, I'm ready to go check out these places in person and see them physically. And so take that list of schools that you've got, head up to their visit websites. Our pages will be at the end of this presentation. Go to those visit websites and go pick a date that's going to work for you. And try to, if you can, really do more than one at a time. I think especially as you look at your busy summer calendars and certainly when you get into the fall and everything that happens at the beginning of the school year, your time is going to be very valuable. And so if you're able to, sometimes it can be really fun to combine schools together and go on a little bit of a road trip or even book a flight and really travel around the country and try to see schools that are nearby or very similar and able to really compare and contrast them that way. So absolutely take advantage of that. I'll also say this, a really good place to start if you really have no idea what you want in a college, you probably live pretty close to one. There are about 2,500 or so four-year colleges and universities here in the US. And one of the really nice things is you can go see schools that maybe you don't really know anything about, but you can also go relatively close by and also see what maybe you don't like about those schools. My own college search, I grew up in a small little college town. There's a small private liberal arts college in that town that many members of my family went to. And I thought, okay, maybe that's this kind of school for me. And so my first college tour was kind of informal. It was that in-person trip to my parents' alma mater, and they showed me around and walked around, and I realized very quickly I did not like small schools. And so then from then on, I was able to have my list be those bigger schools. And so book your trips, go check out these places in person. And if you're not ready to make a full commitment to really travel a really long distance, see what's close by and even just get a sense for the type of institution that you might like. That can really help get your search going in the right direction. All right, tip number 3.
Yeah, read your email, please. We put a lot of time, energy, and effort into these emails to make sure that you have the details you need to have a successful visit on our campuses. So when we say we recommend arrival time of X, make sure you're planning your travel time. Know what traffic is like. We have a lot of folks who drive stay in Denver. We are about 30 miles west of Denver, and don't realize traffic during rush hour can really hold them up. So really make sure you're planning your trip, know what arrival times are, what you'll be doing during the day. When we say wear comfortable clothes and shoes you can walk in on long distances, we really mean it, because again, we want you to be comfortable during that campus visit. On the flip side of that, there's something that doesn't make sense or something you feel is missing, send us an email so that we can answer that for you. And maybe it's something we haven't thought about that could go into future communications to folks coming to visit our campuses. Also, one thing we ask, I think I can speak for Stephanie and Dan here as well, is if you choose to no longer come for your visit, make sure you cancel that spot, please. A lot of times we have wait lists for our programs for people to come visit. We'll have folks visit or book 4 or 5 different dates because they're unsure of when they're going to come, and then never cancel. And then we have people who no-show and we don't have those spots filled. So let us know if you want to cancel. We're not going to hold it against you. We know plans change. We just want to make sure that we're maximizing the spots we have for anybody and everybody who's interested in visiting. Stephanie, tip number 4.
Alrighty, so tip number 4 is to use your phone. Now, if you're a student, you're probably often told to put your phone away when you're in class and things of that nature, but on a campus visit, it can really be a great tool. You do, of course, want to be engaged in the tour that you're on or the info session you're on and not let that phone be a distraction. But your phone can really help you in terms of remembering what you're learning during your visit on campus. As you begin touring multiple schools, maybe planning a trip like Dan was talking about, where you're visiting multiple schools in one short period of time, things do start to blend together. So using your phone to take pictures, maybe of buildings that you haven't seen, things that you saw on campus that were cool, and also to take notes of things that you hear and learn about that maybe you hadn't seen on the website through some of that past research that you've done, is ultimately going to help you. Because keep in mind too, not only are you maybe visiting to help decide what schools you're applying to, but those same visits are going to ultimately inform where you head on your admissions process down the road. So as you go into making a decision on schools to revisit or where you're ultimately going to attend, you're going to be relying on those past experiences. So having that information through different notes and pictures and things of that nature is going to help you in terms of really keeping those memories fresh in that sense and keeping them meaningful to you and what you found important during that visit. I'll pass it over to Dan for tip 5.
No, absolutely. And there's a couple of things that we're talking about. There's also, it starts with like tip number 0, which is like literally make a list of the schools you're interested in, like make a quick Google spreadsheet, and you can have a place where you put those kinds of notes and those important things, the things that you remember from your campus tour. And you can be as excited as stock photo model here is to have a peace sign in a library. But it's really, truly helpful. You take those quick notes on your phone and you just kind of copy and paste them into that list later. And they'll definitely, you'll be able to recall that so much easier. Tip number 5, explore what's nearby. Beautiful shot of Boulder, Colorado for this one. How about that? When you go to a college or university, you're obviously going to a place where you're going to learn, you're going to be in class, you're going to be on that institution's campus, whether it's a residential campus and maybe they have an on-campus housing requirement, or maybe they don't. Either way, most colleges and universities, they're not, no school's an island, like they're in a community, right? There's something around them. There's a town or maybe even a full city. Maybe they are in a suburb, or they're really in the heart of downtown, or they're really out there in their own space, whatever it is. Each school has its own vibe around it. And so it's important to not just do the visit itself, but if you've got the time, do the orchestrated tour that we put together for you to see campus itself, but do spend time exploring the area around, right? You're going to be living there. You're going to become a member of that community yourself, spending 4 years, if not more, in that space. And a lot of us, our universities, we have this really great relationship with the community around us. One of the benefits of higher education is that you have a more educated populace, you have a better job opportunities, you have a little bit of a higher tax base, you usually have a really cool town around those colleges and universities because of that relationship the university has with the community around it. So definitely take advantage of that. Go out and see what is around the campus. It can be really well integrated to campus life and campus community. It could be totally radically different kind of community, and then campus exists a little separately from it, but you get a chance to really go see that for yourself. Go see where students are spending their time when they're not on campus. Are there restaurants? Are there shops? Are there local businesses that students are going to spend their time with? Are there apartment buildings that maybe upper class students live in their junior or senior year, postgraduate years, right? If students get a job in that same town, where do they live? So it gives you a chance to really picture not only your immediate future of where you're going to go to school and maybe some of the places you'll eat off campus freshman year, but then also where you'll be spending your time 3, 4, 5+ years down the road as you move on for that institution and get to experience the community it's in. So explore what's nearby.
And I must say, we are all 3 part of some pretty cool towns. So there's a lot to take advantage of. So explore what's nearby. So tip number 6, stay engaged. And I'm going to say this is not only when you're in person, but also virtually. I know today's ability with this webinar, you do not have your cameras on and you are muted. But when your camera is off, it's easy to get distracted and try to multitask. So how many of you are looking at emails while you're listening to us, or watching a TV show in the background while you're listening to us, or reading something or talking to someone else? It's very easy to get distracted. So take those distractions away in that virtual environment if you can. Turn off the email, turn off the TV, be engaged in what's going on the screen. Take notes, physically write stuff down. Write down questions. Have a goal of asking at least one question during a virtual session and keeping yourself engaged and listening to what's going on. When you're in person, do the same things. Sometimes it can be easy from university to university, especially if you do a general information session. Sometimes the information seems to repeat or seems similar, and so you kind of zone out at times. But try to give yourself a goal of learning 2 or 3 new things that you didn't know about that university before, coming up with questions during any presentations you're sitting in while in person. And while you're doing different sessions or tours at the campuses you're on, listen to your tour guides, see what they're saying, because sometimes the things that aren't scripted, aren't part of a normal tour script, are when you really learn through those organic conversations, meeting the person that you're walking next to who is 3 states away from you, but you engaged and connected with one another and you found your future roommate. So stay engaged, stay connected, ask questions. No question is too big or too small. You can even say to us, hey, I visited 7 other universities and each time I have asked this question. What's your answer to this question? Ask the same questions and see what those answers are, but keep yourself engaged and see if you can be a part of that community. That engagement will tell you if you can be and if you're a good fit for that community.
All right, and then tip number 7 is to arrive early for your visit and explore campus on your own. So this is sort of twofold and ties into some of the logistical elements that we've talked about in terms of keeping in mind recommended arrival times. That way you can find parking easily and find the room where your info session or tour is departing from, or check in a timely manner and not feel stressed or rushed in some of that pre-logistical work. But the other layer to that is that opportunity that you have to explore campus on your own. Again, as we've talked about through the course of a tour, through the course of a formal visit with our admissions office, you're going to get answers to a lot of questions that you have. You're going to get to connect to student ambassadors and admissions team members and so on. But having that time to explore campus on your own really allows you to get a feel for the culture and the community and the spirit and the resources that are a part of that campus community. So I always suggest grabbing a coffee and walking around, maybe sitting in the library or the student union, and just sort of watching how students behave and interact with each other, what they're talking about, because that's going to give you a real feel for the color of the campus. I always also recommend to look at different signage that you see on campus, such as posters promoting an event that's taking place that weekend, or workshops that the career services office is hosting, or a theme night in the dining hall. All of those things just help you see sort of where you fit in within that college community. Something you'll hear a lot about when you think about college, when you go through your admissions process and applying and all of that good stuff, is the idea of finding the right fit school for you. And some of that comes from things that you can easily search online, such as, do they have majors you're interested in? Are they suburban or urban or in a city, a big school, small school, and so on. But so much of that comes also from just sort of experiencing what that campus community is like. We hear it so often from students that it is the tour and that visit or attending an open house that really help them connect with our students, connect with what it really means to be a student at Bryant or at Towson or wherever it may end up being for you. But taking that time to really explore the school on your own can be really beneficial in that regard.
Yeah, no, 100%. And my tip too about asking some students where you should eat, it echoes back to these previous tips of some of the best parts of visiting a college campus are also what happens outside of the scheduled set tour, right? The spontaneous interactions we have with students just because you've gotten the chance to walk around and see campus on your own, or because you've explored the nearby town, or you've pulled a random student or your ambassadors, right? I think so it's really something to think about. Your ambassadors are really terrific resources. Like the current student in front of you who is showing you around, who's either volunteering their time or is paid to do so, they will, one, tell you like it is. We train our ambassadors to not be walking, talking marketing machines. Like they are your future peers. They're going to tell you what they like and what they don't like about the school, and they will tell you that like Glenn Dining Hall here at Towson looks beautiful. It's recently renovated, but the pretzel rolls aren't as good as what they used to be, right? And they'll tell you straight up, and then you really should go over to Newell Hall if you really want the best, buffalo chicken wrap or whatever it is. So, and we talk about where you want to eat because it is such a fun and vital part of the residential college experience, right? You have to eat somewhere, and lots of our universities, we have dormitories, we have residence halls, we'll have places for you to get breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then maybe even midnight snacks and second breakfast and middle day snacks, whatever it is, lots of different quick service places, etc. But talk to not only the ambassador in front of you, but truly any kind of random student you may walk past as well. If they look friendly and you say, hey, just real quick question, we're looking to grab some lunch, where do you recommend I go? They will have opinions, right? College students form very deeply held opinions and beliefs about the different dining options around campus. And so they'll be happy to share it with you. And it gives you a chance, especially if you've got that time, to just sit in a place like a dining hall and look around and see the vibe, right? And feel it and see, okay, here's the kinds of students, my future peers, my future classmates. This is the type of folks I like being around. I like what's going on in here. I like the food in front of me, you know, all those really important questions when it comes to picking a place to go to school. We're going to come up here on our last couple of tips, couple good questions already in the Q&A. I think we'll kind of just answer them as we roll through the end here. But if you keep having questions, keep asking them. We are going to get to your wonderful questions here in just a few minutes. Final couple of tips.
All right, tip number 9. Please make sure you're setting realistic expectations of what can and cannot happen during your visit. We ask that you really have this in mind. I can't speak for Stephanie or Dan here on their universities, but we have 55,000 visitors who visit our campus in some kind of official capacity every year. And a lot of times we'll get a request for the information session, a tour, a meeting with A, B, and C department. They also want to meet with X, Y, and Z. And we wish we could set all those up for you. I really wish I had the capacity and my staff had the capacity to do a full day agenda of these items for you, but unfortunately we don't. So if you reach out and you say you want to meet with these departments and we respond back and say, we can help you set up the info session, the tour, and a meeting with an admission counselor. Here's contact info for the other folks you're interested in. We're not trying to blow you off. Please know that. We just know we don't have the capacity to do that, unfortunately. And sometimes we can't. People ask to meet with faculty in specific departments. They are currently teaching and working with current students, and that's their priority first. And we also want to respect that, because if you're a student at our universities, you're going to get that same kind of attention from faculty and staff. Some of our support services on campus won't meet with students until they've officially applied. Again, it's all volume, not because they don't want to meet with you and answer your questions. It's just they want to serve students that are committing or committed or current students, just like, again, you would receive that same attention as a student at our universities. So please know ahead of time, you can always ask, but if we say we aren't able to do that, or here's info for you to set that up on your own, we wish we could help pull all of that off for you, but we just don't have the bandwidth, the staff, or the faculty and staff to pull all that off. So just have those expectations, know what they are up front, what each university can and cannot potentially provide for you. We'll do what we can to help, but we can't unfortunately set up 55,000 individual visits for folks. Stephanie, you want to close us out with tip number 10?
Yes, and the last tip we'll end with is that if you need accommodations for your visit, or for like a supporter who's attending a visit with you, please let us know. We want to make everyone's visit impactful and as smooth as possible. So if you are in need of support in some way, whether that be in terms of accessibility or mobility related needs, or something completely different from that, it's always best to reach out so that we can help guide you through what options and how we can best assist you in that regard, which I think ties into our conclusion here as well.
Stephanie, can I go back real quick? I apologize. I want to tie 10 back into 9, and I should have said this before. Expectations with those accommodations as well. We're a large campus at CU Boulder. Our main campus is about 1.2 miles in width. It can be pretty long to walk. Our walking tour is 90 minutes long. And so setting realistic expectations of what accommodations can look like. We don't have golf carts for folks because of liability. So we get a lot of requests for those. And when we say, unfortunately, we don't have a golf cart we can give you a tour with, but we do have a wheelchair we can offer that you can get around during the tour. Please know, again, we're doing what we can to accommodate you, but there are some restrictions and liability pieces we have to keep an eye on. So again, just a piece of those expectations when it comes to accommodations as well.
And I had one more piece about expectations I wanted to put too, which is in addition to maybe visiting with X department or Y professor, if you're not able to make a tour time that we have up there, we are happy to try to make it work with you, right? Try to get you maybe a one-on-one guide or something like that. But we schedule our tour times, and sometimes they're able to stay really consistently. Often they change every single semester because our student ambassadors' schedules change every semester, right? There are common class times across our campuses, and the reason we have tours at 10, noon, and 2 is because that's when we've got tour guides. And I really don't have a tour guide at 9 in the morning or at 3 in the afternoon or anything like that. You know, I could get you somebody at 3 o'clock, but they got to go to class at 3:15, which is why they were able to do the 2 o'clock tour, but not the 3 o'clock tour, right? So again, you can always reach out as you're planning and saying, hey, I'll be near campus, I'll be swinging by. I can't quite make that 10 o'clock, but can you accommodate me? And we will do our best to do so. But at the end of the day, come if you need to come anyway. You can't get that guide. We'll all have self-guided brochures or something else that you can still see our campus and get a good feel for it, even if you're not able to make the scheduled info session and guided tour. Yeah, I think that does loop to the overall theme as well, which is just reach out and ask for help. You're not alone on this. You don't have to, I don't know, be your own like Trivago or kayak, travel planner. Like, we can really help with the logistics, right? People ask us all the time about visiting our campuses. And so we are really good at recommending you can go here, you can stay here, you should eat here. If you're going to go visit another school, here's some of the easiest ones to get to, XYZ. We can help you with that. And it's our job to just be helpful, right? We are professional, not only admissions counselors who are, reviewing applications and helping to shape each successive class of students at our schools, but we are, we're also great customer service folks, or at least we hope we are, because it's our job to do everything we can to help you learn about our institutions, right? And so we're here to help. We're not scary, we promise. We are used to getting emails and calls. Yeah, only sometimes are we scary. But we're definitely here to be of service first and foremost. And so that comes to the campus visit, that comes to really any part of the application process that you need help with or confuses you or anything like that. We're here to help. Let's do this. We have our campus visit websites available here for you all to go to. Internet search engines are also really, really useful for these sorts of things. You type in pretty much any school name in the country and the word visit, and it will take you to their visit page, maybe their virtual visit page. Many schools, I really like Katie added here with the blog. They may also have like a blog or some other either admissions counselor penned or current student written experience piece for you to explore as well, to give you a little bit of a slice of life at campus. That again, you're able to check out from afar before you come to campus proper. Something that's relatively new, and Katie, Stephanie, I'd love to hear if you guys have opinions on this. I've started to kind of casually push students to not our ambassadors' social media pages. Like, we have social media ambassadors who are, they're on the Instagram or they're on Zeme or other platforms kind of talking about the experience here. But there's also just students who go to Towson who have their own channels on YouTube and stuff. And like, they just create content, and they make pretty good, like, here's what I wish I'd known about, at my college before I came here stuff. And I imagine you'll find that at lots of schools as more and more students really have their own, online brands, for lack of a better word, like their own online personas and channels. And I think that's been a fun experience and resource that I've also been able to tell students to check out from afar. So we're happy to do that. All right, so a couple questions in the Q&A. If anyone wants to kind of jump in and maybe work our way through top to bottom. I'm also in the midst of writing out all of these tips. One of the questions from a parent very helpfully said, can you display them all as a list? I'm like, of course, that'd be brilliant. Just like have them all in one slide. Next time we do this, we'll do that. But I am going to write them all out into the chat at the very least, so you are able to kind of copy and paste them over to another document for you to look at. But good tip. I believe that's Iris. Good tip to have them all summarized. We'll do that for next one. But let's see, what's our first? Katie and Stephanie, you guys able to see the Q&A so we can work through them? Okay, cool. If anyone wants to jump in while I finish writing out these tips.
Sure. So the first question is, can you get on a tour as a standby or walk-on tour if all the guided tours are filled and you can't get a spot? I think all of us probably have a slightly different answer to this. So I will say, at CU Boulder, we never guarantee standby or walk-in because it just depends on who actually does show. You're welcome to show up, but if a tour or a program is full, we have to, we want to make sure everybody who did sign up has a great visit experience. So we don't want to overpack or overfill. And two, we have to go by fire code policy as well. Because the day we decide to just be like, yeah, we'll just let one more family sneak in is the day the fire marshal shows up and shuts us down because we are overfilling our rooms due to fire code capacity. So each university is different though. If all of our tours are full and you do walk in, we aren't able to give you just a tour guide for a personal tour, but we do have self-guided tour maps. And when you're done with that self-guided tour, you can come back and talk to an admission counselor. Stephanie, do you want to talk a little bit about how y'all do it?
Yeah, I would say for us it's pretty similar, but the two things that I would highlight that we touched on a little bit already too is just that element of communication and expectations. Like if you know that you tried to get a tour and it's not available on the website, I would love to know that you're coming to campus ahead of time, just so that way you're on my radar and maybe I can make sure that there's not that we can get you on the tour, but that there are folks who can meet with you or what have you, and we can walk through options. But with the same understanding that if the tour is full, like there do have to be some expectations in terms of what is logistically and what is feasible in that sense. But I would always recommend just reaching out just so that way we can be more transparent in terms of what might be possible given that day and given our institution's process for handling that.
Yeah, and I think that actually dovetails well with another question we got from Isabella, who asked about how to show interest during a school visit. So not to get too in the weeds, but as you're doing your college search, one of the things and one of the terms that kind of comes up is this term of demonstrated interest. So there are going to be some colleges and universities that will look at who attended a visit or who did one of the virtual information sessions, who has emailed their admissions counselor, and they may factor that in to their admission decision. And so that's something to know. It's an important thing to know about. And I think it's especially true if you're not able to make the scheduled campus tour. If you reach out and email Stephanie and say, hey, I can't come to the tour, but I was on campus and I really enjoyed it. I just want you to know that. Some schools will say, oh, hey, that's great. I'm glad you enjoyed your visit to campus. I'm also going to make note of that. So then when it comes time to review your application, I know, oh, not only does the student apply to us, they also did get a chance to come see campus for themselves. And that might factor in to their admission review. I tell students all the time when it comes to just demonstrating interest or showing interest during a visit, it should be really organic. Like you should be very excited about doing those things. If you find yourself looking at a school and you see on their website or you've talked to their admissions counselor and they say, yeah, like you showing interest in us, you learning about us is an important part of our admissions process. We're going to want to see you do that. You should be excited to attend the online webinar. You should be looking forward to the visit. It should not feel like you're checking a box and that you're kind of begrudgingly like, well, yeah, well, this one school, I have to go to this webinar tonight, in order to show demonstrated interest. It's probably a good sign that maybe you don't really love that school that much, right? Like it feels like work. And so Isabella, to kind of answer your question, to show interest during a visit, you're already visiting. You're really already doing it. By coming for the visit. I don't know of any school that, like, aside from saying, yes, you checked in, you're confirmed you attended this visit, I don't think anyone's like grading you on how engaged you were during that visit. That's a little insane. No one does that. So the fact you already are doing the visit itself, that you're showing up and conducting that visit, that's really the most demonstrated interest you can show.
So next question on here is from Brian, who's a parent. Brian, thank you for the question. Is it okay to reach out to specific departments the applicant would like to see or meet with, or should we try and work that in through campus recruiting? I mentioned that during one of my tips. You can always ask us, reach out and ask, is what I'd recommend. Start with admissions and ask. And like I said, we'll respond back and say, we can set up these 2 things for you, but we aren't able to do these, but here's contact info. Please feel free to reach out and work those into your day. So I would always say, Stephanie and Dan, feel free to agree or disagree, but I'd always start with the admissions office, your admission counselor, and work through it that way.
Yeah, I
Which
would
is why,
agree.
I'll say why conveniently I've put our email addresses on the screen. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, for instance, at Bryant, we offer a day with class program. So in addition to like folks who are coming for tours and info sessions, there's a specific program you can sign up for that's really offered all throughout the fall and spring semesters, where students sit in on class. They can still go on tour and do an info session, but they can also have lunch with an ambassador, et cetera. So through those formal programs, we do also accommodate some meetings, just again, depending on the availability of faculty and other departments and things of that nature. So it is always the best option to start with. But you know, at universities, we're all kind of one big team. So if you want to email someone just to ask questions, usually that's not a problem. Again, because they are also serving our current students that are on campus, meeting in person isn't always an option, but it may just depend on the specific department and the time of year and, you know, that person's schedule for that day too.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, you know, to really bring it on home here, as we said and keep saying, like, yeah, we're a great place to start. We're a great resource for you. We are happy to assist as best we can. And the easiest, quickest way to really start that is the general admissions email address. You know, email any institution across the country. It's very convenient that we all are basically like admission or admissions at our school's website. Most schools are something to that effect. But yeah, you find us, you contact us, ask us our questions. You're gonna hear back from a school within a day or two. You know, we really pride ourselves. I've worked at big schools, small schools. Our email response times are usually about the same. To let you know, whatever question you've got, get the answer for you. Let you know what you need to know, especially about your visit to us. Doesn't look like there's any other questions in the Q&A, but if anyone does have another question, now is the time to ask, because we're at the end of our presentation. We have nothing more for you, but we again really appreciate that you spent the time here, and the fact that you are thinking about this right now, whether you're a student, whether you're a family member of a student, someone who's helping support them along the way. Your investment in this process is very, very useful, and attending things like this is a great way to just get your head around what is sometimes a very large and sometimes unfortunately stressful process of applying to college. Doing stuff like this can really help mitigate that and make this whole process more fun, more enjoyable, a little less stressful. Okay, well, if no further questions, I think our facilitator, Melissa, I think you've got a wrap up to say, and then we'll bid everybody adieu.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, everyone. So I do have just a little bit of a wrap up. I just want to thank our college representatives today, and also all of our families and students who joined us. This panel was awesome. Some great information about visiting colleges and universities. Definitely a very important part of your college search process. So definitely take some time and think about what they said and what they had to offer today, and kind of review all of that information. Now, before we end, just a few different things I have to share with you coming from StriveScan. Once you close out your screen, there will be a quick survey. So just a couple questions about how our panel went today. Again, just a reminder, there will be more sessions happening, college fairs, and also panels on other great topics about your college search process to help you through every single part of that process from start to finish. And also this recording will be available at strivescan.com/launch in just a few days, and it will be available for about a few months after as well for you to refer back to if you missed anything or wanted to kind of go back and see what they said about the tips and tricks about the college visit. Again, I wanted to thank our college reps and also all of our students for joining, and all of our families. And have a good night, everybody, and best of luck to everyone through their college search process. Have a good night, everyone.